Senator, just humor me, and I know you're doing a great job, and this is the audience's frustration directed towards the system and the compromising of the mandate. But let's say we did remove the parliamentarian with someone that would be more sympathetic, that would be more fair-minded. If we can't do it just via rule, what would that look like? What would happen? Would some of your other colleagues potentially erupt in anger? Has it ever happened before? Please walk us through that scenario.
Well, technically, I'm thinking here. Technically, you could do it, but you're not guaranteed that the next parliamentarian is going to be any better because they have to interpret what the Byrd rule is. It's kind of like a judge is supposed to interpret the Constitution, but it's funny that you get, a 6-3 decision all the time out of the court. I mean, either it's constitutional or it's not. I know that's your frustration too, but so you're not guaranteed to get a different outcome from a different parliamentarian. You can just do the best you can. However, if you did do it, the leader could fire the person. It could trigger a vote, and I would say you would have at least 10 Republicans that would vote with the Democrats to probably override the leader in that, unless it was for a legal purpose or a job performing purpose, meaning job performing, like she didn't show up to work or something like that. That would be grounds of firing. That'd be the only reason why we wouldn't have to the vote couldn't be called to override the leader.
Got it. Yeah, so that's not shocking to me. It's disappointing. I think it's rather pathetic, but it's not disappointing. And I want to get to some of the wins. I don't want to stay in the negative, but I have to. I represent the audience. The audience is on top of this issue. Just to make sure I understand, we have to now live with the parliamentarian. Is there any way to change the wording? Because even from people that were once sympathetic to the parliamentarian, I've been getting messages from members, from an administration, and also in the Senate. They think she is reaching way too far here. It's incredibly arbitrary. There's no board, there's no council, there's no committee. It's just her mind that gets in the way of 75 million people that voted. Something seems really imbalanced there. So is there any way to try to compromise with her? Can you meet with her? Can you negotiate? What's the process here? Is it like you submit your homework and the teacher grades it? Like, walk us through some of the sausage making here.
Charlie, actually, that's a good example. You can submit your homework. Teacher grades it, except for the parliamentarian. She doesn't just exit out. She will exit out, and then you can meet with her and say, how can I change this to get my grade better? She's one of those individuals that will let you do that. So what she'll do is she'll work with the language, explain what your ruling is. I stopped good, by the way. But she'll allow you to change your wording if it's possible. But if it's ruled that this funding specifically is in discretionary spending zone, which is where the SNAP program for the most part is, it's in the Farm Bill, which is discretionary spending, then it's hard to actually move that into mandatory because you'd have to draw mandatory that it's inside Medicaid or Medicare. And that doesn't fall inside Medicare or Medicaid, the SNAP program. So that's a little more difficult to do. On some of the other programs that she's kicked out, we was able to go in and rewrite them. She will help us with some of the language to write it to make it within the Byrd rule. The problem when you do that, sometimes it changes what your objective is, because during the Byrd rule, it has to do with revenue only. It can't do with policy. So anything that does with policy can't be in there. Revenue, so taxes or increasing or decreasing mandatory spending. That's a very, very narrow window we have to fight in.
Yeah. So just something to think about to bring back to your conference. I think you got. No, please finish your thought.
I was going to say, I get this is very frustrating. It's very frustrating to me. And the rules in the Senate are so old, so ridiculous, and need to be reworked. And the reason why they've never been reworked is because when you rework rules, a lot of cases it actually takes 2/3 of the Senate to actually agree. So just for instance, I know this is stupid. We can have water and milk on the floor, but you're not allowed to have coffee. I can go to the floor wearing a tie and a jacket and no shirt, but I have to have long pants on and closed-toe shoes. And these rules have been there, I don't know, before I was there, and way before probably Chuck Grassley was there, and that you can't get them changed. It is the most frustrating thing you've ever seen.
All right, well, here's what we need. I want to get to the victories here. We got 4 minutes, then I got to let you go vote. We got to have the Trump rules. You're allowed Diet Coke. You have to wear a red tie if you're a Republican. And how about we fix this whole parliamentarian thing? Just bring it back to your conference. You can say, hey, I was just on the Charlie Kirk show. We had a polite conversation. Let me tell you, people are pissed. And that we had this wonderful election, we worked so hard, and then some unelected Senate staffer can just say, no, 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 especially food stamps are illegal. So I think you guys should consider termination. Trent Lott did it in 2001. I know there was retribution from that, but we are in special times. Now, with that being said, we'll just put a capstone on that. Senator, go back to your conference, do that. We're going to socialize this. And you've been a good sport with all this. I know you have to interpret all this. Talk about the wins. 4 minutes uninterrupted, Senator. What are the wins we got out of this? Because it's not all bad. In fact, it's overwhelmingly good. It's more than 80% of the pie. Senator, please.
Well, we're making tax cuts permanent. We're securing the border. You talked about that previously. We're defending our country by plussing up the DoD. We're making sure that we're energy independent, and at the same time, we're boosting take-home pay to the average household of four. Their take-home pay this year, compared to last year, will be $10,000 higher. We're locking in the economic policies for Trump. We're cutting $1.6 trillion in deficit, which is the largest deficit reduction in any Congress or in the history of Congress, which is massive. And there's a lie out there being told too, Charlie. There's a lie that the Democrats are spreading, that a lot of the media has picked up, that we're adding $3.3 trillion in deficit. That's a lie. And what they're lying about is the CBO scored this bill two ways. One, they scored it with saying, hey, let the taxes expire. This is what the Democrats said. If we let the taxes expire that we're currently operating on, which is called current policy, what's the deficit on that? Well, since the tax, if we let them expire, it's $4 trillion plus to the Washington, D.C. bureaucrats to spend. If we allow it to expire, the CBO said, well, then you have a $3.3 trillion deficit. But if you let current policy, which is the current taxes that we're currently in, continue to move forward, it actually is a $507 billion surplus. So we're not, it's all about numbers, and it's ridiculous numbers, but the media and the left is spreading the lie by saying this is a $3.3 trillion deficit increase.
Right. And again, the supercharging of the economy is underrated here. It's about growth, border. And so, Senator, last question. What is a votorama, and what amendments do you anticipate being added to the bill? Anything, and does that also have to go through a bird bath too, is the amendments? So really quick, about a minute remaining on those two elements.
Yeah, so any amendment has to go through the bird bath. The parliamentarian will rule if it's within the bird rule or if it's out. If it's out, it's 60 votes. If it's in, it's 51. Votorama means that we vote as long as people can last, which, you know, Chuck Schumer's pretty old. Leader Thune's pretty fit. I think the Republicans can outlast the Democrats on this one. They can put any amendment forward. There's nothing that stops anybody from putting any amendment on the floor. And it's as many as you can get in until you can't keep your eyes open anymore. And it's one of these crazy rules that once again the Senate has. As far as getting in there, Rick Scott's got a provision that could possibly change the FMAPs back, and it'd give you 5 years. What it does is it goes at some of the Medicare expansion that happened underneath Obamacare. It brings it back in and makes you focus specifically on the areas that need it the most, meaning that we have 35 million people inside the United States that live under the poverty line. Over 70 million are signed up for Medicaid. Those numbers don't work. Why do we have so many people gaming the system? It's because of the FMAPs, and so that's one amendment that could help, and it would decrease the deficit, secure Medicaid for those that need it the most, and make sure that people that are on there deserve it, not people that are on there because they're too lazy to work.
Senator, you got to go vote. Thanks for your time. And
yes.
Deliver that message back to your conference. Do not dismiss the idea of firing her. Do not dismiss it.
And
Thank you so much. Senator, appreciate it.
And red ties.
And Diet Coke. Both of those together. That's right. Yes, sir. That's right. See you soon. Look, here's the takeaway. And I wanted to have that. I wanted to get all the facts out there for you, the audience, because your information is power for you guys. Knowledge is ammunition. The lesson is this. The person who rules you is the person you let rule you. And right now, the U.S. Senate, they have to start to think a little bit more creatively. They only have a majority because you guys gave them a majority. And if you got to go nuclear, you got to change some rules. By the way, the July 4th deadline that President Trump said, hey, I want it by July 4th, that's a self-imposed deadline. If it has to go another week to have a rule vote, Here's what I've learned about the Senate. And I like Mark Wayne Mullin. We don't agree on everything, but he's a wrestler. He has energy, unlike some of these other senators that have just no spunk, no spirit. At least he'll talk. You can get answers out of him. I'll tell you, so many of these senators, they just don't want to work. You know what the Senate schedule is under regular order? I kid you not. You arrive Tuesday early afternoon and you leave Thursday afternoon. That is their work schedule. Tuesday evening, all day Wednesday, Thursday till afternoon, they fly back to wherever they want to go. They go to Florida, they go back to their constituency. It's literally 2.5 days of work. And you guys can, you have this whole conversation where we have to debate, we have to work weekends. I'm sorry, a lot of people in this audience, they are EMTs, they are nurses, they work Christmas, they work weekends. The Congress is like an unheard of concept to work holidays and weekends. They're above that. They're the ruling class. Don't you understand? They need their Christmas break. Remember we did that whole show back in November, December of how much of our national debt and our public policy is hinged on the most expensive Christmas vacation ever? The most expensive Christmas vacation is they'll just decide to go spend a couple $1 trillion because they're tired. I want to go home on Christmas vacation. Republicans need to start playing hardball here. It's time for us to just throw it down and say, you know what? We won this election. The deep state is against us. The intel agencies are against us. We finally have cultural energy. We're not going to get in the way of our core promises. And our core promises are very simple, which is illegals should not be getting food stamps. Hold on a second. They are foreigners in our country receiving government benefits so they can go get SNAP benefits and EBT cards. We're not going to put up – that is a red line. You want to talk about a red line? I'll draw it with my Louisville Slugger. That is a red line, okay? It's a red line. Very simple. We're not going to put up with that. And you got to fire the parliamentarian fine and let a bunch of people scream. But no, you might have missed it. Mark Wayne Mullin told you. That's why I really wanted to have that conversation respectfully. Let's try to flush it out. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's try to figure it out. He said, well, 10 Republicans would side with Democrats and they would just lose their mind. Now we have the core problem. Now we have revealed the issue. The issue is in front of us. It's that 10 Republicans are holding the entire conference hostage because they're more sympathetic to the Democrat cause than the Republican cause. And look, we got some we got some benefits on, I'm going to read some of this. We got some SNAP eligibility. But it's still, the idea that illegals are going to keep on getting food stamps, that should be verboten. We shouldn't put up with it.